Hey, my name is Lincoln Murdoch, and I am a triathlete, and I'm a follower of Jesus. And my story is that I was raised a preacher's kid. Imagine that. So I was in church all the time growing up, and in fact, my grandfather was a minister, a pastor, and so I had this church thing going from day one. And I grew up in the church, a good kid on the outside, but running my own life on the inside. And, you know, I hit those junior high years, and sports and girls and all that kind of stuff started catching my attention. I wasn't very good at either. I got cut trying out for the 7th grade basketball team. In 8th grade, I did make the team, but I scored 1 point the entire season. Imagine that. Divide that by 10 games, you don't have a real good scoring average. In 8th grade, I thought I'd try wrestling. So I tried out for wrestling, made the 8th grade team, and I had one match and got beat 12-0. So again, I'm not setting any records athletically. During those junior high and early high school years, as I mentioned, I was running my own life. I knew a lot spiritually. I was in church all the time. I had a lot of knowledge up here, but none of it had dropped down to here. I remember my father saying some people are going to miss heaven by 12 inches. The difference from here to here. And that would have been true of my life had I died in those years. Because again, I knew a bunch of truth, but I was still on the throne of my life, running my own life. So, you know, I get into these high school years, and I make the 9th grade football team. I think I was 3rd string, and I got in about 5 plays the entire year. And so again, not setting any records here. Tried out for basketball again in high school, and I made the JV team. I worked really hard that off season leading up to that sophomore year, and I wasn't very good. Man, one time, you won't believe this, but one time I was taking the ball out of bounds. I was getting ready to throw the ball in bounds to start the play, and something flipped in my brain, and I just took off dribbling inbounds from out of bounds. Nobody had ever seen this before. The referee didn't even have there's no motion for that because the referees had never seen this. They just blew their whistle and said, hey, you can't do that. So again, you know, I was like putting the bar really low athletically. Still running my own life. Went to college, and my senior year in college, I decided that I would go out for the track team. Now, I went to a small school, an NAIA school, 1,200 students, and you know, they was glad to have a track team, enough guys to field a track team. I think I was one of 10, 12 members on the team. So as a senior in college, having never run competitively before, I decided I would go out for track. And because I could fog a mirror and walk, I made the team. Again, nothing stellar. A good high school runner would have run me into the ground. But my appetite was whet at that point for competitive running. So I went through college. I got married halfway through college to a great gal. But I was still running my own life. I knew all about Jesus, but I really didn't want him to have any say in my life. You know, if I got in a jam, I might shoot up a prayer, but that was about it. So we got married, and right before I graduated from college, I had this encounter with Jesus. It was in a church, and for many years, my heart had become calloused because of sin. Sin will callous your heart. It'll cause you from being able to really feel the Lord speaking to you and talking to you and touching your heart. But that night, it's like the Lord cut through the callus on my heart, and I felt conviction of my sin. And I knew enough up here to know that conviction leads to repentance, which is where we make a spiritual U-turn. And then we feel led to just commit our lives to the Lord. So on that night, I gave my life to the Lord. I said, Lord, I'm waving the white flag. I'm surrendering. You can have my life. And that was August 12th, 1979. And I can tell you that I've known the reality of Christ in my life every single day since then. Changed my life radically. What a powerful encounter with the King of the universe, the most amazing person that you could ever meet, certainly the most amazing person I ever met. He changed my life completely and totally. Well, I began to live for him and for his glory instead of me and my own glory, as I had been doing for 22 years. And about that time, I got more into running, And I was running 10Ks, and then I ran a half marathon. And since I did that, I wanted to see if I could do a full marathon. I did a 26-mile marathon. 4 weeks after that, I tried my first ultra marathon, 50 miles. I knew I couldn't run 50 miles, but I thought, well, I can run 26, so let's see how far I could go. Well, I hit the 38 to 40 mile mark, and I just had to get to the finish line. So I struggled and walked and completed my first ultra marathon. Went on to run 4 more ultra marathons and a number of other ultra marathons. And so, yeah, I would always watch the Hawaiian Ironman triathlon on TV. The one in Hawaii, the big one, 140-mile race. Those guys amazed me. And I finally met a triathlete, a guy that had actually done a triathlon. We went out to lunch, had a chance to talk to him and find out more what those were all about. And I started doing triathlons, and it's like I found my sport. And there was this dual thing going on inside of me. I love to compete. I love to try to win. And yet I wanted to do all of it for God's glory and not my own glory. Because as I said, I was now living for Him, not for myself. And so, like most triathletes, you start out just trying to finish. And then I started to be a little bit competitive in my age group. And then in smaller and medium-sized races, I started being a little more competitive overall. And then the Lord opened the door for me to do the Hawaiian Ironman triathlon, the world championship of them all, the Big Daddy. So I went out and I did that race and finished that by God's grace and strength. I was so thankful to get the finish line. That was the longest day of my life, 14.5 hours of racing. Really long day, 50-mile-an-hour winds, and heat, humidity was terrible. So I kept racing, kept wanting to race for God's glory. And just this last summer, I had an opportunity to race in the U.S. National Championships at the sprint distance. And so there I am in the water before the race started. And normally when you're in the water, man, everybody's heart rate's going up. You're getting nervous. They're counting down 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds till the gun goes off. And I'm looking over to my right because I was on the far left side. And there's like 50 to 60, the fastest guys in America, my age, that I'm racing against. There's only 3 spots, gold, silver, and bronze. I had no idea how I would do, but the gun went off and I had this peace come over me that was just from God. It was amazing. I had a bad swim. I came out of the water a minute and a half behind the first place guy, and that guy happened to be ranked #1 in the nation in my age group. I was ranked 19th. So, on paper, I shouldn't even have been really in the top 5 because I was racing the #1 guy, the #3 guy, the #10 guy, the #12 guy in the nation. So, came out of the water a minute and a half down to this guy, and somehow I flew on the bike. By God's strength and His power, I just flew on the bike, came off the bike in 2nd place. Took off running, and the first part of the run is up a steep hill at US Nationals. And then once I flatted out on the flat part, I could see this guy about 300 yards ahead of me. I kept running him down, running him down, running him down. With about a half mile to go, I got to tell you, I was hurting so bad. I wanted to quit. I wanted to throw up. My body was screaming at me to stop, but I was giving it everything I had. And I had a decision to make at that point. I figured if I'm in 2nd place, I'm on the podium. Is that good enough? Am I satisfied with maybe getting a medal? There's a super fast guy, a 7-time national champion behind me chasing me as I'm chasing the #1 guy. And I thought, well, even if that guy passes you, you're still on the podium. Sometimes in life we have decisions like that. Life's tough. I'm hurting. I just want to quit. Am I going to give up? In your spiritual journey, sometimes you might decide, yeah, man, this is tough. I think I'm just going to quit. But I thought, how many times am I going to be in this spot, running down the #1 guy in the nation, going for the national championship? And so I tried to find another gear. And with about 300 yards left in this 20-mile or so race, I pull even with this guy. And I was kind of scared, like, is he going to go with me? Do I try to pass him there? Do I tuck in behind him and try to out-sprint him the last 20 yards? All these strategies were going through my mind. But I just thought, go, just go. You've caught him, just go. And I slowly started pulling away from him. And the last couple hundred yards of that race, I hurt more than I've ever hurt in 30 years of racing. But I put the pedal to the metal. I tried to find one more gear, and I crossed the line. And I beat that guy, and I beat the 7-time national champion. And by God's grace and by His strength, somehow I won, and I became the national champion. Now remember back what I told you about my early days in athletics? Man, you know, at Asbury College, when I ran a 2-mile race on the track, I got lapped. There's only 8 laps, and I got lapped. That's what kind of runner I was. So from that experience, becoming a national champion, just, well, I can't put into words. And I can't tell you the gratefulness that I feel toward God for the strength that he gave me that day. And that strength is available to anybody. Not guaranteeing anybody a national championship, but as we live for the glory of God, as we want him to be the focus of our life, and we want everything to do to honor him and to please him, we'll be amazed sometimes at the experiences that he gives us and where he takes us to places that we never kind of thought we could ever go. So I'm just here to tell you today that whether you're from a church background or maybe you've never been in a church in your life, Jesus Christ will be the most amazing person you ever reached. And giving your life totally and completely to him will radically change your life. You'll know peace and contentment like you've never known before. But more importantly, you'll understand the purpose for your existence. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's all about him and living for his glory. Thanks for letting me share my story.